plastic and fast fashion and secondhand items and the scapegoating onto disabled people that happens instead of actually holding corporations and policies accountable, and how that all factors into the joy of thrifting. Welcome to the 12 Days of Vlogmas here at my new YouTube channel, Disabled Farm School. Welcome back to Disabled Farm School. I'm Rachel, and today we're doing a thrift haul in which I just get to show you some cool, fun things that I've thrifted and talk about thrifting. Disclaimers, you don't need to spend money you don't have, so please don't feel any pressure to go buy things from me ever. Disclaimer number 2, I'm super fatigued today. I cannot guarantee that anything I say will make sense, but should be an interesting ride. So today I thought I would share with you some things that I've thrifted, and specifically some things that I might give as gifts, but also that I find useful and more accessible because they were thrifted and therefore cheaper as a chronically ill person during the holidays. And also I thought I would just talk a little bit about accessing thrifting when getting up and going to the store might not be available to you for whatever reason. Why I love secondhand stuff. I love it so much. So I think I'm just gonna sort of go through some things that might be ideas for gifts. There's a couple ideas for thrift flips, things that you can craft out of a thrifted find and turn it into something else. And some things that I actually got for myself that will become gifts to me because I love thrifting so much that I sometimes, it's literally as soon as I turn on the camera, she starts scratching. She was asleep. Hello. Have you decided to get involved? Yeah? Getting involved. You involved? Yeah? Say good morning to the people. Good morning. Good morning. Hello. Yes. Oh goodness, we love thrifting. Oh yeah. You sleepy? Uh-huh, I get that. Well, I love you. Nothing. It's fine. Right. Where were we? Thrifting. Hey puppy, come here. Yes, you can cuddle while we talk about thrifting. It's so magical, I can't ever get anything done, even when I do have energy, which is rare. Is it my chronic illness or my cute dog that is sabotaging getting things done? You decide. Hello. Hi. Oh my God. Help. Like, this is what's happening. Is she's right here, and then it's just like, how are you so cute? Those eyes. Enough of that from me. Not her, she's an angel and doing everything perfectly. All right, so I thrift a lot. In fact, deciding what to share with you was really hard because almost everything that I have with me, even traveling, is thrifted. So I thought I'd do some recent finds, some favorite finds, some things you can thrift flip if you want to do crafts, and some holiday themed stuff, both that you could give as gifts for whatever gifting holiday, and also, maybe you guessed this already, but all of the decor in this room is thrifted or vintage, or handmade, like we made in the video about making paper chains on the Welcome to the Channel video. Okay, so to start off with, this is a thrift flip that I think can make a great gift, but is also maybe really fun for you if you're a... Juniper, come here. Can you stay on the carpet? Little tippy toes. Thank you. Go to your bed. Oh, girl. Thank you. Wow, the light is so... There we go. Oh my goodness. Yeah, sleepy dog. So I thought I'd start with something that can make a great gift for a crafty person in your life or for you. And it's a small task, so it can be done with feet up. In fact, I'm in a recliner chair right now. And all it took for me to make this was a bunch of random leftover things like cardboard, little bits of thread, little bits of cloth, a pair of scissors, some pins, safety pins, and you'll see what I mean in a second. So this is a large wallet. The very fun, funky pattern that I thrifted. It cost $1. And I got it because I loved it, and I didn't know what I was gonna do with it because I don't use wallets that don't fit in the back pocket of my jeans. And this is a very big wallet. And then I saw, actually I'll try to link to the post of this very cool crafter, sewist, seamster that I follow, who was making a traveling sewing kit. So something you could have like in a small bag with you while you were on the train or the bus or something. And I think the term for this object is a housewife, which is so funny and problematic on so many levels. But what I did was I cut the seams. This was like there was connective tissue along the edge. Tissue? Fabric. Gross, Rachel. There was connective fabric along the sides of the wallet here so that it only opened so much. I cut that, so now it opens like a book. And I turned the inside of it in to a little traveler's sewing kit. So I'll zoom in on this in a second, but you can see all the pockets that would have had cards in them have sewing stuff in them. This middle coin purse has stuff in it, and I'm gonna take you on a little tour of it. I basically just used random extra things from my existing sewing kit. A lot of thrift stores also have little bits of thread, tiny scissors, random old measuring tapes in their crafts section, or you can look online on sites like Etsy or Poshmark. This isn't sponsored by any of them, that's just what I use. There's stores that only deal in secondhand goods, so you know you're not accidentally buying something new when you meant to thrift. There's particular shops or closets, is what they're called on Poshmark. And this is really awesome for me because I really like being able to mend things while I'm traveling, but also to make things. So if I know that I'm gonna wanna do a project as a gift while I'm traveling, and I don't wanna have to amass all the supplies, spend a bunch more money, use up a ton of my energy getting all this stuff, this fits, it's like smaller than a book, and it fits in my bag. So first, over on this side, which would have been the card holders, I cut out a bunch of tabs of cardboard with a slit in one end, and then I took thread off of my existing rolls of thread and I just wound it around, and then the end of the thread is pushed through the slit. So I've got all those little tabs in here of different thread colors that I thought might be useful to have. In the big pocket is a little sewing gauge. Hello. And it fits perfectly back in there. In the middle zip pocket, I've got a bag of buttons and tailor's chalk, because tailor's chalk gets everywhere, so I wanted it to be contained. That's for marking clothes. In this little driver's license pouch, measuring tape. And I can never find my measuring tapes, so having them in the see-through thing, really helpful. I've got a set of safety pins pinned into a safety pin right here. And then that safety pin is also holding this piece of felt that's full of straight pins. So, and a couple of needles as well. So on this side in the card holder, here are the safety pins. We've got these straight pins. I've got some extra pockets back here for more stuff that I might add. I'd like to put a seam ripper in here, for example. Backup needles. These were actually from my grandmother and my aunt's sewing kit that I inherited. Bunch of backup needles. Tiny scissors. These are obviously just for cutting thread. They will not cut fabric, but you could fit a bigger pair of sharper scissors in the back pocket back here. And then my little homemade leather thimble, which I actually like better than a metal one, and it goes down flat. And you can zip the whole thing up so nothing gets lost. Next up is another thrift flip that you might use that sewing kit on. This would require embroidery thread of some kind, but I left my stocking, my childhood stocking, in storage at my apartment. I forgot to bring it with me, and we do stockings in my family. And so I went to the thrift store and I got this vintage stocking. It's just all like cross-stitched or embroidered, but on that cross-stitch fabric. Very sweet vintage look. It's like red, almost velvet on the back. And it's perfect except for one thing. My name is not Chase. So I looked inside, and this was someone's project to put a name on this. It is hand embroidered. So I'm gonna pick it out and then get some red embroidery thread and re-embroider my name. And now I will have a stocking at my folks' place. So that's an easy thrift flip, should be fun. And it could also make a great gift if there's a new kid in your family or a new pet in your family or someone who has joined the family as an adult in some way. One of my favorite things that I've thrifted is this water boiler. It's a plug-in kettle. And the reason that I love this as a gift for myself, but for a chronically ill person who has maybe cognitive symptoms, is I started forgetting when I've left the kettle on the stove. Then these turn off automatically, and they don't scream a very loud, high-pitched whistle in the meantime. So if you're in the bathroom or another room while they're going off and you're sound sensitive and forgetful, this is a really great alternative. A lot of people know about these, but they can be really expensive for the ones that aren't made of materials that are maybe not that great to boil water in. This I got on Poshmark, and a lot of stuff people will have new in box, and you can research what you want, or you can look the brand up online, the brand and model, and find out what it's made out of, but then find it for much cheaper on one of these sites, these thrift sites. And this is where we get into my ranting about plastic and product design and the rate of fast fashion and all of these things that are basically pulling resources out of the ground, making stuff out of them that we cannot decompose, that we then throw away, that ends up in the landfills, but it doesn't go back into the ground in a way that can be integrated the way that the original petroleum that we have to pull up to make plastic products did. And now our world is full of microplastics, which is not helping any of us deal with long-term health issues. It's also not helping any of us who are trying to grow food keep our soil healthy. So there's a lot of reasons why we don't need new stuff manufactured for us. The big exception to that is a lot of disabled people do need new stuff manufactured for us. We need plastic straws. We need more ventilators made. All of these things that are access tools that need to be clean, need to be sterile, need to be custom made, whatever they are. That's what we should be using new materials for. That's what should be our sort of priority. And rather than villainizing people who use those things, like the whole plastic straws campaign that made a bunch of restaurants completely inaccessible to a bunch of disabled people, we are often put in positions as disabled people where we have to make bad decisions, quote unquote bad, around plastics because we need prepared food, right? Because we have not been able to stand long enough to sort the trash and the recycling so carefully and then drive to a bunch of different places to drop it off because our municipalities don't actually recycle that much stuff. We have to go to specific places for it. All of those things can take energy, money, time, and access to specific capacities that we may or may not have access to, right? So we're often set up as chronically ill and disabled people to fail in terms of plastics specifically, quote unquote fail. It's not failure if you need to use those things for access. It's not. There's no shame in it. I have so much single-use plastic in my life because I often need to buy prepared foods because standing to prepare food or even sitting to prepare food is often not accessible to me. There are ways to do it that are more recyclable, but they take more cognitive energy, focus. They take often more steps, and often aren't accessible. So this is a dual rant of stop making individuals the problem, right? The problem is we've created a system reliant on single-use plastics that markets them to us heavily and makes it hard for us to access what we need without using them. 100 years ago, they weren't even a thing. And now it's hard to know how to keep your food fresh without even reusable plastics. We didn't even do that for most of human history. And now it's extremely time-consuming and labor-consuming to only use glass, only use recyclable bags, always shop in person so you don't get all this shipping packaging. All of those are ability-related and accessibility-related activities. And if we don't make those things accessible to a wide range of abilities, then as disabled people, we will end up having to bear the brunt of all of these things that generate microplastics. This is not to depress you, it's to actually explain why I think it's so fun and exciting when we can get our hands on secondhand stuff that wasn't getting used where it was. It's already been produced, it's already in the product stream, it's already in the object stream of human use, and we are keeping it out of the landfill. It's cheaper, which is often more accessible because it's cheaper, and it has a story. It's been somewhere before. We often are having to get really creative, which I think is way more fun. And for me, it brings me joy to be able to do that with fun items, especially since a lot of my necessary items, I have to make compromises around plastics in particular and around newly manufactured goods. I can't get a broken heart rate tracker. I need my heart rate tracker to be, if not new, like very top of the line, because I have to track my heart rate. But I can get a used water kettle, and in fact, this wasn't used, it was just old. Someone had it in their attic, right? That had never been opened. It was a gift to them. That's my long rant. I don't know if it made any sense, but basically villainizing individual people around plastics and the manufacturing of new items often ends up hurting disabled people the most, so stop doing that, everybody. I don't think anyone watching this channel is doing that, but don't do that. And rant number 2, we don't need most stuff to be made new for us as humans, and there's so many cool things already out there in the cycle, in the stream of objects that need homes that you can give a home to. Keeps it out of the landfill, means you didn't have something new made for you. It's really fun, and I guess I'm encouraging you to only engage in that so far as it's actually fun and accessible to you, rather than this weird shame and blame thing, because again, these are supply chain systems. We don't control them as individuals, and we don't actually have that much influence as individuals. As a collective, yes. So the more that we start to create demand for secondhand objects, the more places there will be to get them. That's my little rant. Take it for what it is. It's, do what you need. Tell me what you think I missed, gently, in the comments. What are some other aspects or perspectives on second-hand versus newly made items for joy and pleasure, but also for necessity and access? Next up, let's talk decorations. This is a tiny plastic Christmas tree that I definitely wanted to keep out of the landfill, but also it's tiny and it folds down, and so I'm able to store it at my relative's house, and then when I come here, I have festive decor in my room that I'm staying in. So if you're like me and you can wind up bedbound suddenly, having joyful things that set a tone in your space of coziness or however you want to feel becomes not so much a luxury as a necessity for survival, right? Coziness, beauty, these aren't just luxury, frivolous things for people who have to spend time in a space without being able to leave it. They are the things that can keep us going, can bring us joy, can make us feel connected and like we're a part of things. So that's why I love to decorate. One of the reasons. Also, it's fun. Every ornament on this tree is either vintage or thrifted. Habitat for Humanity Restore, which I think they have them in a bunch of different places. A lot of these came from there. This cute little stocking, that's gonna be Juniper's stocking. It's a little felt stocking. Same with this candlestick, thrifted. Really love that vintage look. This Santa Claus makes me really happy. He's a little vintage metal Santa. These are actually ornaments, but they're too big for my tiny tree, and they light up. How cool is that? Flicker. Yeah. One tip on thrifting holiday decor is don't shop for it at the thrift store right before that holiday. If you can, do it a couple months before, right? Or right after that holiday for next year, if you have, you know, $10 that you want to spend on Christmas decor right after Christmas or Halloween decor right after Halloween. A lot of people buy stuff new for those holidays and then clear it out and get rid of it and buy stuff new the next year. And you can help give those items a next home for a long time. And it's really fun what you can find and the deals you can get. So now let's talk clothing. I struggle to shop for clothing in person with pots. Standing in a fitting room, upright but not moving very much other than to take clothes on and off, makes me very hot, very dizzy, and it makes my heart rate spike and my blood pool in my feet. A lot of fitting rooms have a seat, but you can't see yourself in the mirror if you're in the seat. So it's not actually accessible if you need to be sitting down the whole time. I have taken to thrifting online for clothes, and I've gotten pretty good at it over the past few years, and I want to share my tips and tricks with you. First is know your measurements on the day that you're shopping if you can. So tape measure, find out what each of the measurements means, find out what inseam means, you know, find out what rise on a pair of pants means, waist, and get those measurements. If that's physically challenging for you, get a friend to do them on a day when you're doing okay, and write them down on a note, like a little sticky note or a sticky note on your computer if you're shopping online. Take a photo of it with your phone so you can always just look them up. And you know, every 6 months or depending on how often your body is changing, ask a friend to help you redo that. So that's the first thing, is have your measurements. And if you can, shop by measurements rather than sizes. That tends to work better for secondhand clothes online. Second tip is look up that brand and see if you can find the same item and their size chart. Because sometimes the online thrift stores or the individuals who are selling secondhand stuff on Poshmark or Etsy haven't measured correctly. But if you can find the same item and you know your size with that brand, or you can use their sizing chart, then you can match that better. Third tip, if you are scent sensitive at all, thrifting might be tricky for you in general. One of the advantages to online thrifting is that you don't have to go into the store and be bombarded by all of the scents. I'm not particularly scent sensitive, but even I have had things come in the mail that are very scented. You might want to get like an enzyme spray, something that can help you reduce the scent on the item when it comes in. That worked really well. I bought a Squishmallow and it had been sprayed with perfume. People do this because they think it's a nice thing to do for the person they're sending it to. And I wanted something I could hug at night and not be totally fumigated by. And so I use BioClean is the name of the enzyme spray that I use, but I have a friend with multiple chemical sensitivities and scent sensitivities, and they use a different product. So there's a lot of stuff on the market now for that kind of thing. And if you can't expose yourself to the object and do the descentification yourself, have it be shipped to a friend's address and buy the enzyme spray also to be shipped to their address if you can. And it's not fair that you have to do this, right? This is an ableist situation. I'm sorry that you have to do it. It's not fair. And it's a great time to ask for help because people think shopping is fun and they want to shop together. So this is a way your friends can shop with you that doesn't involve going into the store. So have your friend do the descenting process for you. And then once they've finished descenting it, then they can bring it to you. Now that gets tricky with return windows. So, that's the advantage of thrifting being cheaper versus say like true vintage shopping where a lot of things can be actually more expensive than they would be new. What I really like for this, and this is not sponsored in any way, it's just what I use, is ThredUp. Because you can set your sizes so it only shows you stuff in your sizes. They do have a good amount of plus size clothes. I've seen up to 4X on there but there aren't as many of those as there are of the 2X and 1X stuff. So, you know, bear that in mind. And this is my fourth tip. Just favorite things. When you're stuck in bed or, you know, you're stuck somewhere and you don't have a ton of brain power, but you feel like, gosh, I would love a little joy. I want to go shopping. Remember how fun shopping, you know, maybe used to be, if it ever was for you. Go through and just heart things, like gamify it, but don't buy anything. And what you're doing is you're curating a little store for yourself. So your favorites list becomes like a shop that only has stuff you like in it. And then when you realize, oh, I need a new pair of pants because I just split mine, or, you know, it's getting cold and I don't have a warm winter hat, you can go to your actual favorites list and just look through that for what's currently available and see if there's anything in there that matches your need. So it becomes a much more pleasant and less overwhelming experience. And then my fifth recommendation is don't pressure yourself. And this comes back to my rant, but if you can't find what you need easily and joyfully, it's okay to buy it new. It's really okay, right? We're always making calculations about accessibility, ease, priority, joy, exhaustion. So don't stress about it. Just only do it if it's fun. And hopefully it can bring more joy into your life. That's my 5 tips. Have you had your electrolyte water today? Cheers. Let's get back to the thrift haul. This is my favorite thing that I bought recently. If you're a family member of mine, look away because I am giving this to myself for Christmas. Like I said, I love thrifting, and I have a favorite thrift store in my hometown that I've been going to since I was 13 years old. So, I mean, way more than half of my life. And so what I've been doing is chatting with Santa about what budget one might take to the thrift store, go see what's inspiring, get a few things that I like, and then give those things to Santa to wrap for me for Christmas. So this is one of those things, so don't look yet, family, if you want to be surprised. This is a cloak. And if you hadn't figured out already, I love stuff like this. It's a sweater cloak, so it's like fleecy on the inside. It's got big, easy toggle style button loops for when you're not feeling very dexterous, big pockets, and it's very whimsical. It makes me happy. All right, let's get whimsical. I mean, come on. Now we're talking. That's a cloak. That's a cloak, mother. Feel like a little hobbit. Next up, this very warm flannel. It's not actually a flannel, it's like a fleecy cotton, thick plaid jacket, shirt jacket. And this has lasted forever, and I've seen a lot of these on ThredUp in like bigger sizes, so it fits over other stuff, and it just makes me so happy. In a similar vein, this is actually like very high quality fleece from the brand Columbia, outdoor wear brand, that I got thrifted for very inexpensive, and it's in very good condition, and found it in a plus size. So that's been really useful this winter. Just a nice red flannel. Another one that's going in the Santa pile. This is the kind of stuff that I love to get at thrift stores because it's true vintage, but it's so cheap. And this is a wool coat. It's a long, lovely lined wool coat. And I think it was $12. And it's got real pockets. Throw it on over a nice dress or that kind of thing. Really, in today's haul, this is another coat that I think is waterproof. It doesn't have a hood, but it has that sort of like 80s, 90s waterproof style, or at least water resistant. It's got the raincoat flap, and it's that just like very vintage red color that I love. This was $6.99. So something that my friends are often surprised about is that I thrift a lot of home goods. You saw my tea kettle. This is a decorative teapot. It's not food safe, but it's this old vintage winter scene, and it makes a great vase. Something I found at the thrift store recently that I was really surprised about was a 1/3 bottle of cologne for 99 cents. I've been wanting to try out a signature scent, but it's very expensive to do. This was $1, and it's in a cool bottle, so even if I don't like it, that's a very reusable item for me. And then finally, this just a container, but traveling, staying organized is really hard for me. And I often need bins to sort things into when I can't bend over to actually put stuff away. I need to just be able to throw my clothes in one basket, throw my dishes in another bin, and then come back to them when I have more energy. So I am someone who uses a lot more bins and baskets than the average person to create accessibility in my space. And every time I can find one that's actually aesthetically pleasing to me, that's still cheap, that is an advantage. Let me know if this is fun for you to chat about thrifting stuff. I obviously love it, and it's a little bit of a fun game in my life, and actually something that I can do when I don't feel very well is to just do, like I said, the putting favorites in a brain. Favoriting things to make my own little shop. It is a game that is actually useful in my life and joyful, but it doesn't involve actually spending money when I don't feel well. A lot of the time, it can feel like the only thing I can do when I am very, very incapacitated to have any influence on the world is to buy something. And I think that that is exploited a lot by companies targeting sick and disabled people and other people who feel disempowered or are disempowered, and by the context that we live in, and that is really not cool and exhausting to resist. So I feel like for me the workaround is I don't actually purchase anything when I'm feeling my worst unless it's something I need, like groceries, but I do the finding and the sorting and the getting excited about items in that state because it brings me joy and it occupies my brain just enough that I can actually rest without actually having to think logically about anything or big picture. So I'll sort of be in bed just scrolling and liking things, but I don't buy anything. And then if I'm feeling better and I realize I have a true need for a new jacket or whatever it is, then I can look in my little store. There's a bunch of different ways that this for me relates to actually having a good time as a chronic illness person. Decorating the space, enjoying my rest time without spending a ton of money, being able to feel really excited about keeping objects in the supply cycle longer and letting them have multiple lives and their stories coming to me and feeling like I'm connected to many generations of an object through many different people. The creativity of crafting while needing to have my rest time and doing the thrift flips, and the ways in which this can also make a budget go way farther for things you actually genuinely need, like warm clothes. Connecting to friends to help make the objects more accessible to you is actually a positive. I know asking for help can feel really hard, but it's a good thing to do. It's how we connect to each other, community-wise, ecologically. We gotta have needs. That's what everything in nature does, has a need, gets it met by another thing, and we are a part of that too. A lot of us are, on a budget, and this is a fun way to get creative if you can't actually do a lot with your hands. So if crafting's not feeling accessible to you right now, or DIY, making gifts is not feeling accessible, you can really find some fun, weird, creative stuff out there. Go forth or stay in bed and have fun. Happy thrifting. Okay, well, now I'm exhausted. Thanks for joining me here on the 12 Days of Vlogmas at Disabled Farm School. Subscribe if you want to see more. We will be here December 13th through 25th, crafting, getting cozy, chatting about all things disability, DIY, and winter coziness. And stick around in the new year for weekly videos exploring different farm, garden, and DIY projects as we dream and plan our gardens, and I take you along with me on the adventures, successes, and failures, which are just experiments, of gardening and living off the land with disabilities. I hope that you have a beautiful, cozy winter. I'll see you next time on Disabled Farm School, where gardening is for everybody. We've just got to figure out how together.